We've already said goodbye in one kind of way, slowly as we've seen him dwindle to the person that we knew, the person that we truly loved, the person that was you. And so we meet in remembrance, and we'll think of the times when it was you, and we'll remember all of the best of those times. For in the real scheme of things, your illness wasn't long compared to all the happiness you brought your whole life long. We think of you as yesterday when you were fit and well, and when we're asked about you, it's those things that we'll tell. And so we meet in remembrance of a mind so fit and true. We're here to pay our last respects and to say that we love you and thank you. Good morning, family and friends. We gather to honour the life of Peter Allen Duncan, better known as Pete, Dad and Granddad. My name is Matt, and we warmly welcome you all to Westella, and we wish to pass on our deepest sympathies to you all at this sad time. On behalf of Pete's family, thank you all so much for coming together today. They feel very heartened that you've all joined with them to celebrate the life of such a good man. Pete wouldn't have wanted a big fuss for his funeral, but I'm sure he's thankful for you all coming today. He wouldn't have wanted you to dwell on the sadness and loss. Instead, remember the good times spent together and all those memories throughout the years that he shared with you all. This ceremony is an opportunity to celebrate Pete, all that he meant to you, your love for him, and the privilege of having him part of your lives. But to begin today, I invite Pete's family and all of you to come forward and light a candle for his soul. May the glow of these flames be our source of hope now and forever, letting you burn bright within our hearts, Pete. Pete was an intelligent man with a positive mindset. He was well presented and so particular, which sometimes was frustrating for his family. And on the other hand, he was humorous and loved a good time. Pete lived for his family. He was loving and caring and had amazing energy. He'll be missed for saying struth and box of birdies, which his family aren't quite sure what this ever meant. And we'll never forget how he loved banging his hand on the table when he would get a little bit excited. And talking of getting excited, Pete's loves were flying his radio-controlled planes down at the Kingston Sports Centre. He got his pilot licence back in his earlier days, which was a lifetime highlight. He loved playing tennis with wife Barbara, loved fishing, especially on rough nights, being the adventurous man that he was. Going shooting for pheasants with Chris, tinkering in his veggie garden, and Barbara's rabbits were known to eat his vegetables at times. He loved his broad beans and walnuts, and I think his walnut coffin is quite suitable for today, which he would have been proud of, along with his other little trinkets down the back. And it will be these things that help make his legacy live on. But let me take you back to the start. Born in Queensland on the 14th of January 1947, his father was a mining manager, and all Pete could remember from school was how vicious the teachers were. He went to a private high school in Brisbane and played rugby, and his first job was at the local timber mill. But he decided to move over to New Zealand in his mid-20s to work as a power station operator. This is where he met Barbara McCormick and her daughter Ange, which Pete took on as his own. They married at a courthouse in New Zealand and then went for a cup of tea and a biscuit afterwards. Their love was true and something to behold. They lived a wonderful life to be proud of. As a couple, they loved being social, going out for meals, and they loved to play some keno and have a poke. And this was a weekly ritual at the casino. They went to the gym, played tennis, enjoyed walks along the beach, and afternoons with a glass of champagne and a nice platter. And one of their favourite spots was up at Mount Wellington, and whenever they had visitors, they'd always take them up there for a look. Rain, hail or shine, they would always go. And going back a bit, it was in 1970 when Pete and Barbara welcomed Chris into this world, which completed the family. And in the mid-1970s, the family moved from New Zealand back to Brisbane, where Pete worked in a warehouse, unloading trucks, all manually, before working at Dulux Paints as an operator. The family then moved to Gladstone, where they called home sweet home, and lived the majority of their lives for 25 years. And during this time, Pete went back to power station operating through to retirement. When Chris, Jenny and the girls moved down to Tassie for a sea change in the late 90s, it wasn't long until Pete and Barbara followed, after coming down for a holiday and then falling in love with our island state. They settled in Kingston, which they loved. They lived in a friendly neighbourhood and made beautiful friendships. Pete, being Pete, got a bit bored in retirement, so he started working again at Cadbury's as an operator for around 8 years. And we can safely say the family had a good supply of chocolate. I think the girls' record was eating 5 kilos in 2 days. Pete is the very much loved granddad of Gavin, Crystal, Christy and Maddie, and great-granddad to Wyatt, Marley, Nate, Quade, Blake, Mia, Evie, Cooper and Sam. He was a fun, hands-on and very childlike granddad that was active with plenty of games and walks and more walks, which always finished off with a soft serve ice cream just around the corner from Macca's, always without Nana knowing. And at age 57, Pete finished work due to being diagnosed with MS, but luckily this didn't really affect him for 10 or so years later. And in 2010, Barbara's health started to decline, and sadly, she died from cancer in 2016. After this, Peter's health started to decline also, and sadly his legs just wouldn't work anymore. It was a year and a half ago he moved into care at Sandy Bay after battling with cancer and dementia. Pete came to the end of his earthly journey on the 24th of January 2026. It will be the little things that you remember, like all the good chats that you had with him, that will help bring back the smiles again and push away the pain. We're now going to have a time of tributes, so just have a little think if there's anything you'd like to come forward and share with us in honour of Pete. But to start us off, Christy and Maddie are going to come forward and share some tributes with us.
"79 years you lived, Grandad. 79 beautiful years. Trying to summarise so many special memories into such a short speech has been incredibly challenging because there were just so many amazing ones. There are so many wonderful things that could be said about Grandad, but I'd like to share a few of the memories that meant the most to me. I believe today isn't about mourning, it's about coming together to celebrate Grandad's life. The memories, the laughter, the love, and the incredible man that he was to all of us. For those who may not know me, my name is Madison. I'm Grandad's granddaughter, the daughter of his son, Christopher Duncan, and I feel honoured to be standing here today to share with you the moments of Grandad's life. When I think of my Grandad, my very first feeling is love. A warm, comforting love that made you feel safe and completely at home. Grandad had this calm, gentle way about him that made you feel like everything was okay just by being near him. Growing up, some of my fondest memories were the time our family would travel to Hobart to stay with Nana and Grandad, or they would come to visit us at Sulphur Creek. Those visits were never just visits. They were filled with laughter, routines, stories, and so much love. My sister Christy and I were lucky enough to grow up in these moments together, and they're memories that we will still talk about today. When Grandad came to stay with us, one of our favourite things to do together was to play French cricket in the backyard. These days, I look back on that and I like to call it bougie cricket. It was a much simpler version of the game, far less serious than a test match. You'd hold the bat between your legs, smack the ball straight up into the air while everyone else scrambled to catch it before it hit the ground to earn their runs. It was simple, silly, and so much fun, and Grandad loved it just as much as we did. Grandad worked at the Cadbury factory in Hobart. I remember I used to tell my friends at school that my Grandad worked in a real-life chocolate factory, just like the one you saw in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was convinced he would walk around making chocolate all day, and when the bosses weren't looking, he got to eat it and swim in it. Every visit came with a 5-kilo box of chocolates. While Mum and Dad thought they were enjoying them slowly, Christy and I were sneaking handfuls from the cupboard daily. I'm sure they always wondered where it went. But as Nana and Grandad always taught us, life is about balance. When we stayed with them during the school holidays, we stepped straight into their routine. Early mornings meant a glass of orange juice, where Grandad would always have his in the same glass that he had for many years. It included vitamins, percolated coffee, homemade muesli or toast from Baker's Delight with a light scrape of butter and a very thick layer of Marmite, because as he would say, none of that Vegemite rubbish. Then it was up and at 'em. Trips to the Kingston gym, tennis at the local tennis club, hours spent hitting tennis balls against the brick wall in their backyard before finally being allowed on the court for a casual hit. The people there became familiar faces over the years, and you could see how much that little community kept both Nana and Grandad young at heart. In the afternoons, Grandad and I would often enjoy our walks, where he would take me on a track that led into the centre of Kingston. Halfway along, he would lean over and say, "Shh, don't tell Nana, otherwise we'll get in trouble as it may spoil your tea. But let's go to McDonald's and grab a soft serve." Another special memory was at the Kingston Recreation Ground to watch Grandad fly his model planes. He loves building something from nothing. He was clever, patient and curious, qualities that showed up in everything that he did. Whenever Grandad visited us at Sulphur Creek, one thing we always did was to go for a walk with our dog King. It was Dad, Christy, Grandad and me, something we did every visit. One particular walk became a story that we laughed about for years. The walk started off like it always did. We were strolling along, chatting away, completely lost in conversation, when we stopped and looked at each other with the exact same expression: where is King? Now, this walking track ran along the side of the highway, and above part of the track was a steep, rocky cliff covered in bushland. When we started calling out his name, he was nowhere to be seen, and then all of a sudden, we heard rocks falling from above. We slowly looked up, and there, peering over the edge of the cliff, was King's little brown face and those big ears. Straight away, we started yelling out to him to stay there while we worked out how on earth we were going to climb up this cliff to rescue him. But King had a very different plan. Instead of staying put, he decided he was coming down to us. What followed was less of a run and more of a roll, flip, tumble and slide down this rocky cliff. We stood there in complete shock, watching this happen in slow motion, absolutely convinced that we were about to witness the end of King. We were all very distraught. And then after what felt like the longest tumble in history, and just in the nick of time, Dad lunged forward, caught him before he hit the ground. King then stood up, shook himself off, did his usual excited little 360 spin, and ran straight off like absolutely nothing had happened. When Grandad and Nana stayed with us, the house was always filled with afternoon nibbles, board games and lots of laughs. Skipbo, Greed and Yahtzee were his favourites. Grandad was incredibly competitive, especially at Greed. He had a very special technique when shaking the dice. It involved a serious face, mouth open, sometimes his tongue out, and his little pinky pointing up into the air for extra good luck. It was hilarious and something that we'll never forget. Evenings were often spent watching Deal or No Deal, Mr. Bean or Mrs. Brown Boys and laughing together. Grandad built a beautiful life with Nana. He raised 2 wonderful children, Chris and Ange. He adored all of his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and would do anything for them. He worked hard, he owned his own home, his car, and he lived a full and meaningful life. Thank you for being the very best Grandad. Today we feel what it's like for the heart to hold on to so much love while also learning how to let go. But instead of sadness, we choose to hold on to the love that we knew, the memories we shared, and the incredible life that you lived. Thank you for being my safe place. Thank you for being my laughter, and thank you for your love. You will always be my home. Rest easy, Grandad.
Today, I want to talk about my granddad. A man who didn't just live life, he truly embraced it. To me, he wasn't only my granddad, he was someone I looked up to. Someone I felt safe with, and someone I was so lucky to be so close to. Grandad achieved so much in his life. He was a pilot, climbed mountains, hiked trails that lasted days on end, and he loved to ride motorbikes and did so many more amazing things. But I know his greatest achievement was becoming a father, a granddad, and a great-granddad. Beyond all these amazing things, what I'll hold on to most are the simple moments, the conversations, the laughs, the 5,000 games of Yahtzee and Skippo. He had a way of making you feel so valued just by giving you his time and attention. When you were with him, you really mattered. Towards the end, it was some of these special memories that you and I shared, Grandad, that always brought you back to me, even for just a little. He taught me more than he probably ever realised. I can't see. I'm gonna have to hold it up. He taught me strength, kindness, and about how important it is to really live life to the fullest. His stories, warmth, and his smile I'll carry with me forever. Losing him leaves such a big space in my heart, but I feel so grateful that I got to be his granddaughter, part of his world, and his love and his legacy will be part of who I am. I'll carry him with me in the way I live my life, the courage I try to have, and the stories I'll tell about him to Wyatt and Marley. I love you, Grandad. Rest peacefully with Nana.
And can I reach? It's not actually a book, there's notes inside here. Right. I'm not used to standing up in front of people talking at all. I'm used to being, and I am standing, believe me, I'm used to being in the back, head down, tail up. So yeah, this is a bit of a respite from our normal busy life to come here, but it is lovely to be here with you all. You all right? Can't hear. And say thank you to Peter's children and family, extended family, for organising this and welcoming us here. I also would like to acknowledge those friends and family who are unable to attend. I know they will cherish the many moments of their associations and memories with Peter. For those, I'm sure you've all met me. My name's Eileen and I am the younger sister. Peter being the oldest, then Jenny and then me. Mum always wanted 8 children, but her body said no more after me. So was I the problem? Probably was difficult at times. For we 3, our early childhood home was very humble in a relatively isolated area named Saline in Queensland. Saline settlement consisted of a 1-room school, a school hall, a headmaster's house, and just down the road, the small underground coal mine which our father eventually managed. Our home had no mod cons. Electricity only when Peter was about 8 years old. 1 tap with running water into the house and your old wood-fired stove for cooking. A bathtub behind a partially partitioned area at the end of the veranda, no running water of course. So it was a very simple, basic life. In spite of this, it was a very happy home with lots of support from community and family, including people you might not know, but I will mention. Mum's sister, Ali Marks and her family, brothers, Ab, Les, Jack, Earl and J.F. James and families, and her sisters Mavis Dale and Eileen Tedford Bulow. We were never at a loss to find a cousin, aunt or uncle to be with. And of course, Grandma James, the matriarch whom we religiously visited once a week. School holidays were never a bore. Mum enjoyed them as much as we did. I suspect Peter might have got his mischief streak from her. She spent hours playing board games with us, cards, marbles. Sometimes in the summer we'd find a muddy waterhole in the creeks to swim in, and there were always cousins and friends to share these holidays. As Peter's Tassie's family know, Peter was a big tease. Just when we got our first car, a black FJ Holden, I can't recall when, but prior to that, I have memories as a preschooler of Mum and I hitching a ride to the local town with a lorry which collected cream cans from the local farms to deliver to the butter factory. So once we had a car, we 3 would sit in the back seat and off we'd go on an outing. It would not be long before there would be complaints from Sister Jenny. Mum, he's poking me. Mum, he's touching me. "Mum, Peter's pulling faces at me." As a consequence, I ended up sitting in the middle, in between them both, and straddled over. In those days, there was always a hump in the middle of the back seat. So I had my legs straddled and I'd be sitting there, but it didn't always stop the complaints and the teasing, that's for sure. For some reason, Peter delighted in tormenting Jenny. I seemed to escape a lot of that. That's probably why we got on so well. I remember Mum telling me how when they were aged about 4 and 2 respectively, she looked out to where they were playing by the wood heap in time to see Peter holding a witchetty grub above Jenny's open mouth and telling her what a delicious morsel she was about to devour. Another occasion, I was told he sat her on an ant's nest. We always helped with the dishes after our evening meal. One evening, Peter was drying the old rotary egg beater, and of course he couldn't resist, poking it, and he pulled it, pointed it at Jenny's hair, and she ducked, but unfortunately it was a disaster. The hair got caught up in the rotary beater, and there was drama again, of course. On one occasion, Mum used to get a bit sick of us at times, I think. On one occasion, we had been bickering and squabbling and arguing. Mum must have had enough, and after a while she appeared with a bulging paper bag and said she had a special treat for us all. Opened the top and said, "Come and get your treat." Well, Peter and Jenny were there first. I was always a bit slow. Only to find, on putting the hand in to retrieve their treat, the bag held slimy green frogs. The bickering stopped. Mum roared laughing while we muttered amongst ourselves, "What a mean mother." Peter spent his first 8 years of primary school at Celine, the next 2 years at high school at Monto, before boarding with our grandma who lived in Monto, and the last 2 years boarding at Ipswich Boys Grammar. It was on one of these train trips to Ipswich that Mum extracted some revenge on Peter's fiendish teasing. As the train slowly passed the railway workers standing on their picks and beside the railway line, I've lost my place now, they would call out, "Babe!" That's what it sounded like. Peter and I didn't know. So Mum said, they're saying paper, why don't you trail some toilet paper out the window? So we did. That's what we did. And the next gang of workers that we passed, we were very surprised and puzzled when they yelled back at us, "Use it yourself." Only then did Mum tell us they were asking for any newspapers we had read and had no further use for. After leaving Ipswich Grammar, if my memory serves me well, Peter did go to Canberra in ACT working as a public servant. He did a lot of different things, but I do remember he spent some time, by that time I was probably a rebellious teenager, so probably not interested in too much in what my brother was up to. Eventually he returned to Celine. He worked on farms, picked cotton sometimes, worked in sawmilling. Then he went on his OE to New Zealand, where he worked on farms and in various factory jobs. He returned to Australia a couple of times and then went back to New Zealand. And then in June 1969, I decided I would like to come to New Zealand with him. We boarded together, but then after about a month, he would disappear for a few days at a time. Then on Christmas Eve 1969, he called in at my workplace, accompanied by a nervous young lass with big dark blue eyes and her cute blonde, pale blue-eyed 18-month-old daughter. She was a bit scared of Santa lurking around outside on the street. Peter said, "We are getting married." And that was, as you know, was the start of Barbara and Peter and Angela's relationship. And you probably know a bit more about what happened here in Australia than I do. Peter's urge to roam the outdoors started early. Mum told the story how several times as a very small toddler and youngster, he had set off with his dog down the road. It took a couple of episodes of verbal and physical punishment before it sank in he wasn't to go off wandering. In rural areas, guns were always present in households. Peter acquired a slug gun at a very early age, and in school holidays we would be out exploring the scrub and bush on the Mulgildy Plateau, looking for prey and protecting ourselves from nasty critters. Once he brought home a baby possum in his hat for a pet, but Mum was not impressed with the smelly ball of fluff, so it disappeared. I don't know what happened. Another time we managed to capture an echidna, which we shut up in our chook pen, only to find next morning that it had burrowed its way out. So that was the end of the echidna. After shifting to Australia, Peter, Barbara and family returned reasonably regularly to visit Barbara's family and myself and family. On one of these visits, he arranged for Chris and I to accompany him on a five-day trek, south-north traverse of the Tongariro National Park. I don't think Chris was very impressed with my lack of ability. However, it was my first multi-day trip with a heavy backpack. And by the end of day 4, my body was feeling the effects. That night, the hut was full, but we managed to get bunks on the top platform. Dog-tired, I went out like a light, only to be startled awake by the young man next to me grabbing my nose. Guess who was snoring very badly? Peter remembered that incident, and it created much mirth and amusement for him. And it was only when he was admitted to hospital, October 24, it was heartening to hear him remember, because his memory was going, remembering the episode, that fellow grabbed your nose, didn't he, in that hut? And to see that familiar fiendish grin cross his face. It was wonderful to see that. We went on to other New Zealand tramps on other occasions when he returned to New Zealand regularly to visit family, and Barbara's family and myself. The Kepler track, the Cascade Saddle track, where he was a young and a middle-aged Irish man took a shine to Peter and just could not stop talking, and when Peter put his sleeping bag down for the bunk tonight, he put his next to Peter. I said to Peter, I hope he doesn't talk in his sleep. Both Kepler and Cascade Saddle are in Mount Aspiring National Park, way down the south. We went for day walks in and around Mount Cook, and there, one walk we went on, we were going up a north-facing steep track to Mueller Hut. And the overseas people in New Zealand, they don't really know about how quickly weather can change in alpine areas. This German chap was there and the sweat was pouring up, his face was bright red, and he had all this polar fleece and stuff on him. And it was hot, the sun was beaming down. It was a protected, north-facing, with the full beam of the sun. And we said, you don't have to have, but they told me you've got to dress warmly. And after a couple of efforts, he did actually take some clothing off. And then we had 2 attempts at Nelson Lakes National Park, which is in the north of the South Island. First time we went, there was far too much snow. We got up as far as Upper Travers Hut. The wind blew, it rained, and there was horizontal water coming off the bluffs. And next morning I got up to go to the toilet, the old long drop, and I went out. The toilet had blown over. It was just a big cesspit of. So So we had some exciting adventures. The next time we went to Nelson Lakes National Park to do the Traverse Sabine circuit again. The weather did not, once again, was not helpful. So since 2010, every year I go back to Nelson Lakes National Park. It reminds me of the times we had together, the laughter, and the mischievous things he used to get up to. Always teased me about my big nose and, oh, that's all right, that you're a good windbreak with your nose when you go into the wind, and you name it, he had an answer for it. So when I go back, I've tramped walked all the valleys, the Robert Ridge track, the Traverse Saddle, Angelus Hut, Alpine One, about 1,600 metres up, Blue Lake, famous around the world, and the St Arnaud Range, and the Parachute Rocks. All places we didn't get to, Peter and I, but always I was there remembering. Every time I go, I remember how it would have been lovely that he could have experienced and seen what I had did. And I probably never would have gone and done these things without his encouragement and his acceptance of my abilities, or lack thereof, and taking me along. Because he would plan all these trips meticulously, as you would imagine. So, farewell to my caring, thoughtful, compassionate, big brother who looked after me and who enjoyed a quiet, simple life filled with fun, family and physical activity. And wherever you are now, Pete, I hope may that fiendish urge to tease be with you always. And so goodbye, my dear brother. Thank you. Sorry if I was a bit long. But I don't talk a lot at home, so when you take the cork out, I tell them, be careful.
Hello, my name's Chelsea. I am Eileen's daughter, Peter's niece, and it's really lovely to be here today with you all. Maddie, Christy, some of your stories ring so true. I've also played greed. I've also seen the cup and the finger in the air. I have very, very fond memories of my Uncle Peter. And the stories of his fiendish antics are no surprise to me. He came and visited us a few times when we were living on the Peach Patch, and I remember the girls and I would go to school, and we'd come back from school and we'd know that during the day Peter would have been up to something to catch us when we got home from school. And there'd always be something every day, and one night he would creep out and scare us as we came up the driveway from the bus. And one time we decided we'll get him. So instead of going up the driveway, we went round the boundary to the house, and somehow he knew. And he was hiding on our alternate route, and he jumped down and got us, and we thought, it was a battle of the wits, and we didn't have many between us, unfortunately. But the one prank he really taught me was I'd been home all evening, and there'd been not a peep from Uncle Pete, not a prank, and that silence was very unnerving. And it came to my bedtime, and I thought, this is so weird, there's been nothing. And I got into my bed, and I could not extend my legs. He'd got in, and he'd short-sheeted my bed, which for the little kids here is when they take a sheet and you sleep on top of it, but they've folded it up over your duvet so you can't stretch your legs out. And I thought something was severely wrong with me. And then Uncle Pete comes and ho, 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 ho. So it's been really lovely to hear all those stories about my uncle, and what a fantastic father, grandfather and great-granddad he was. I've got a message today from Jenny. So Jenny is Peter's other sister. She can't be here today. She is watching on the stream from Queensland, so I've got some words from her. I regret I'm unable to join you today in person due to difficult personal circumstances, but I'm grateful for the people who are able to attend to celebrate the life of my remarkable brother. My lovely niece and goddaughter Vanessa has come to support me at this sad time. We've been looking at family photos which have brought back so many memories of the years together with our sister Eileen, growing up at Celine and later spending time together with our partners and children. I'm grateful to have so many happy memories to sustain me. Peter was our leader and chief mischief maker during our childhood. He taught us how to use an air slug gun, catch perch in the dams and build cubby houses from sticks and grass. He even tried to teach me how to live off the land by encouraging me to eat a witchetty grub as a 3-year-old. We regularly went hunting during school holidays trying to catch a variety of small critters, all without a skerrick of success, except for an echidna, which we captured to our great excitement. Dad was suitably unimpressed, but helped us out by putting it in a bottomless wire cage. Next morning, we went rushing up to the cage to see the echidna, and it was nowhere to be found. The smart little critter that it was, he had burrowed his way out. Peter's passion for model aircraft began as a teenager and continued until his failing health prevented him from going for a fly. During his time in Gladstone, living on the opposite side of the road to the local airport, he fulfilled his desire to fly by gaining accreditation to fly small planes. His other passion was for hiking and bushwalking, which he shared with our sister Eileen. He was an avid adventurer from the time he could walk, which did not always end as he expected. I remember an incident when he went fishing one evening at Tannum Sands, where it was necessary to walk across the mouth of the Wild Cattle Creek, which was shallow to an island, but when the tide turned, unless you stuck to a narrow winding path, the depth was above head height. Suffice to say that he misstepped and found himself out of depth and had to abandon his fishing gear, his catch, and swim for it. I'm sure Barbara would have had a few stern words to him when he arrived home wet and exhausted. In adulthood, he was always welcoming, and he and Barbara were wonderful hosts, always ensuring the comfort of guests. While we have not been able to visit as often as we would have liked, due to health circumstances over recent years, I will miss him, and especially the regular phone calls we had, which sadly ended once his health deteriorated. To his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, my sympathy and condolence for your loss of this precious gentleman.
Thank you for everyone for sharing those beautiful tributes. It's always great to bring those good old stories back to surface again. They say art helps soothe the soul at times like this, so we're going to listen to some of Pete's favourite music choices and open up the family photo album, so please enjoy.
Surprise!
Ready? There you go, Chris. You're forgetting this, mate.
Oh, bye-bye.
Yes! 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 Alright, here we go. Ready?
You see it?
It's coming.
What's he saying? Bakey, catch it. Mama, catch it. Don't you touch it, because it'll crash.
You ready? Here it comes down again.
What is it
Over. Ready? Look out! Look out, Mia! Up a bit, Grandad. There we go. How's that? Good, that's it. Look at Mummy. Grandad, hold it. Look at Mummy. You hold it, that's right. Probably best to hold it. It's really scary, Mum.
What's that, Granddad?
Doesn't bite you. Try something else here.
Go again, Granddad, go.
That shit's really good.
Stand upon a nice walking track. Be sure to look up at the sky and remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts and your memories of the times we loved and the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never have gone. If there's anything that you can all take away from today, it would be Pete wanting you all to look on the bright side of life and to keep active, just like he did. So when you walk out of these doors, let's make him proud by doing just that and living our best lives. Soon there'll be a time where you can come forward and place some flowers on Pete's coffin and say your own personal goodbye. And then I'll say some closing words. You all have memories and stories of Pete, and that's why getting together after a funeral is important, to let his legacy live on. You're all invited to stay here in the chapel just at the back, and refreshments will be served. Pete's family wish to thank you all for coming today. It means the world to them and also him, I'm sure, that we've all gathered to celebrate his life. So in a moment, please feel free to come forward and place some flowers on his coffin. Pete, you're a good man. You're going to be missed beyond words. We're sad at your parting, but we can take comfort in knowing that you're now finally at peace and reunited with those waiting for you up above in heaven, especially your dear Barbara. Tenderly and lovingly we commit Peter, Duncan, to be cremated, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. Go easy, Pete, forever loved, forever missed, and always in our hearts.